total social suicide. I, Isabella Izzy Clarke, a perpetually single, innocent young woman, ended up in the hospital with my best friend, my partner in crime, really. After a particularly disastrous night of drinking. And, as if that wasn't bad enough, I managed to pee myself after giving my longtime crush a massive shock. I swear, looking at his arms, soaked through from my accident, while he was carrying me in a princess carry, I wanted to buy a one-way ticket off this planet. I'm probably not the first person to suffer from alcohol poisoning. But I might be the first person in our small town to go viral on TikTok because of it. Just try to imagine, use all your brainstorming power, how a drunken rampage could land someone on TikTok's trending page for 7 straight days. Here's what happened. It was the weekend, and my frenemy, Chloe, dragged me out to a party. The 5 of us ordered 3 dozen beers at the bar, that's at least half a dozen per person, minimum. No one was allowed to leave until they finished their share. We were regulars at this bar. It was packed inside, so we sat in the outdoor courtyard, under strings of twinkling fairy lights. Chloe, my best friend, was rambling on with some kind of toast, holding her beer glass high. I didn't hear a single word. I'd just gone through a breakup, and my emotions were all over the place. I cracked open a beer, tilted my head back, and, glug, glug, glug. The others were taking 3 sips per bottle. I chugged the whole thing in one go. A dozen beers make a case, and each bottle is 480 milliliters. The other 4 girls drank half a case in total. I, on the other hand, polished off an entire case by myself. And then, I climbed onto the empty beer crate and started my performance. I unleashed a torrent of abuse on my scumbag ex-boyfriend. I hadn't eaten much dinner, and I'd drunk way too fast. Halfway through my rant, I started hugging the trash can, throwing up violently. After I was done, I grabbed another beer and continued drinking and cursing. I'm not crying over you, Ethan. You're not worth it. I'm rich, gorgeous, and talented. So what if I'm a little flat-chested? You go and get yourself hooked by some floozy. We were sitting right out in the courtyard, visible to everyone passing by. People walking by were drawn in by my spectacle. Even those who hadn't planned on going into the bar came in, curious, ordering a dozen beers and a plate of peanuts and sunflower seeds to munch on while they watched me make a fool of myself. Some people even took out their phones and started filming videos for TikTok. I didn't care. I was completely out of it. The owner was initially worried I'd cause trouble, but then he realized I was unintentionally advertising his bar. He even sent us some extra spicy snacks. The more I ate, the more I drank, the spicier it got, the more enthusiastically I chugged. Chloe was getting pretty tipsy too. She pulled out her phone and started filming me, asking what kind of man I wanted to find in the future. I said, given my qualifications, someone like Keanu Reeves or Ryan Reynolds wouldn't be too much to ask. My friend started teasing me, saying I was drunk. I stubbornly slammed my beer bottle on the table, insisting I wasn't. Chloe took the lead, shouting, Izzy, sweetie, it's nighttime. Stop daydreaming, okay? Please answer my question seriously, to prove you're not drunk. By this point, I'd downed 2 cases of beer. I raised my right hand, pointed my index finger at the sky, and shouted. Your brother. Someone like your brother wouldn't be bad. Everyone around us turned to look at me, filming from every possible angle. Right after I said that, I passed out. When I regained consciousness, it was 24 hours later. I was lying in a hospital bed, counting the drops of 4 fluid, with Chloe's incessant chatter buzzing in my ears. Oh my God, Izzy. If you can't handle your liquor, don't drink. Don't you have any self-awareness? You almost scared me to death. Oh, right. I'd gotten alcohol poisoning and been rushed to the hospital after passing out. I gave her a sideways glance and said, Crown Princess, rest assured, your empress is not about to die. Put away your rebellious thoughts. Chloe couldn't win an argument against me, so she just pulled out her phone and showed it to me. Oh, great. My drunken escapade had gone viral in our city. Every other post was of me, from every conceivable angle. I thought the most outrageous part was that the bar owner had projected the video of me onto a large screen outside the bar. He'd been playing it on loop every night since business opened. Great, he was using me as a lucky charm. Even more ridiculous, people had dug up my social media account. I'd gained 1 million followers overnight. I used to be a chubby kid, and I didn't start losing weight until college. I'd tried all sorts of crazy diets and quick fixes, but they were useless and I'd always gain the weight back. Finally, I made up my mind to change my diet and exercise regularly. That's how I finally lost the weight. So, I naturally started a fitness blog. I'd originally had 1.5 million followers, and now, overnight, I had 2.5 million. Well, I was certainly a 250, a slang term for fool in Chinese. This was beyond embarrassing. I could have built a mansion with the cringe I was feeling. Everyone online was going crazy, asking about the brother. What kind of ordinary guy could possibly compare to Keanu Reeves and Ryan Reynolds? Oh, I just wanted to die. Chloe's brother, Julian, probably didn't use TikTok, right? I clasped my hands together and prayed he wouldn't see those videos. Otherwise, I was doomed. But, a familiar voice inevitably dragged me down to the depths of hell. I immediately pulled the blanket over my head and pretended to be asleep, but I couldn't resist peeking out. Chloe abandoned me without a second thought, pretending to answer a phone call and escaping. The hospital room was left with just me and Julian. In my memory, Julian was a terrifying demon king, especially when Chloe and I were playing in the mud. At that moment, I didn't dare to lift the blanket. He studied traditional Chinese medicine, so he wasn't a doctor here. I waited quietly, my heart racing. The oxygen under the blanket was getting thinner and thinner. I felt like I was going to suffocate. Just as I was about to give up, the blanket over my head was pulled back. I met Julian's gaze. He had sharp eyebrows, a high-bridged nose, a handsome face, but he was looking at me like I was an idiot. I could only force an awkward smile and say, "Julian, why are you here?" He sat down beside me, poured a glass of warm water, stuck a straw in it, and handed it to me, ready to interrogate me. "I came to see if the famous internet star had woken up. And, while I'm at it, let's talk about how much you're going to pay me for my appearance fee." Appearance fee? What was that? I was completely confused. It wasn't until he shoved his phone in my face that I realized why Chloe had run away so fast. The night I got drunk, her filming angle was the clearest. She'd not only posted videos using my account, but she'd also posted a video of Julian's photo as a pinned post. Great. The comments were all the same. "The brother is so handsome. I'm in. To have the brother would be a life without regrets. What should I do? I want to have babies with the brother. Izzy, start a live stream. We want to buy things. Please post more photos of the handsome guy." There were plenty of even more exaggerated and explicit comments. And, my phone showed that I had liked almost every single one of them. Heavens, please spare me. I quickly put down the water glass and begged for mercy. "Julian, it wasn't me, I swear it wasn't me. It was Chloe, she did it all." I passed out. How could I possibly post videos? Every time I said a sentence, Julian handed me the water glass again. Great, my apology was turning into a drinking game. In a short while, I'd drunk 2 glasses of water, not much, maybe 500 milliliters. No matter what I said, Julian didn't say a word. A gloomy atmosphere hung over him, and he just stared at me with a cold expression. Even though the corners of his mouth were turned up, he didn't say anything, so I didn't dare to take advantage of the situation. I used every apology I could think of, and he finally stopped handing me the water glass. Okay, so he'd been doing that because he was afraid I'd get thirsty from talking so much. See? Wasn't he still a demon king? It's not impossible to forgive you. Just pay my appearance fee, according to your industry standards. Industry standards? I could practically hear my heart bleeding. We charge for advertisements based on the number of followers. In just one day and night, Julian had gained 800,000 followers. Ugh, it must have been that damn Chloe again. There was nothing I could do but agree. I called Chloe and asked her to come help me with the discharge procedures. Julian, who had heard every word, promptly snatched the phone and hung up. What, am I not good enough? Just because I tried to extort you? I probably hadn't fully recovered yet. My whole body felt weak, and my brain wasn't online. It wasn't until he said that I realized. Before the videos were posted, he hadn't used TikTok and didn't have any followers. Where would the follower-based pricing come from? Whatever, I had plenty of money. I just wanted peace of mind, hoping my brother wouldn't take revenge on me. To this day, I still remembered how, when I was a child, Chloe and I were playing with mud, and we got Julian's clothes and the floor dirty. He made us wash his clothes and mop the floor. I asked him to help me up. I was going to go to the bathroom to change out of my hospital gown. After I stood up, I felt a sharp pain in my lower abdomen, like I was about to get my period. I reached back and touched my pants. They were dry, and there was no blood on my hand. However, a warm stream slowly flowed out, gradually soaking both legs of my pants. Who could have predicted that I would become incontinent? This was beyond embarrassing. I quickly lowered my head, pushed Julian's arm slightly, and whispered. Julian, I'm fine, I can do it myself. He let go, and I gritted my teeth and took 2 steps, but my whole body was still weak and sore. I started to fall to the side. I quickly closed my eyes, thinking, this is it. If I fall, I won't be able to leave the hospital. I waited for a moment, but the expected pain didn't come. It turned out that Julian had been behind me the whole time, protecting me, so he was able to catch me in time. I met his eyes and immediately looked away, feeling guilty. But, the next second, he scooped me up in a princess carry and carried me into the bathroom. His left arm was around my waist, and his right arm was supporting my legs. I was done for. He must have noticed. I closed my eyes in despair, sighed, and gave up. As long as I wasn't embarrassed, the embarrassment would fall on someone else. But then, a light voice came from above. Do you still dare to drink alcohol like water? Next time, it won't be as simple as incontinence. I thought I'd become incontinent because I'd slept too long. Julian patiently explained to me that it was because of the alcohol poisoning, which had numbed my nerves. My brain hadn't fully woken up yet, which was why I'd wet myself. When I came out of the bathroom after changing, I saw a nurse standing by the bed, and Julian was mopping the floor. He was mopping the spot where I'd been standing when I had my accident. I didn't know if Julian had told the nurse about my incontinence, but the nurse was looking at me strangely. She clearly wanted to laugh, but she was trying hard to hold it back. I walked over, wanting to tell her, if you want to laugh, just laugh. Don't hold it in and get sick. But, before I could even open my mouth, the nurse patted my shoulder and said, I understand. It's normal. You're not the first. Okay, so I was being overly sensitive. After we packed up, Julian carried my bag in one hand and used the other as a crutch for me. As soon as we stepped out of the hospital room, we heard the nurse lamenting behind us. He really does look like Keanu Reeves and Ryan Reynolds. Sigh, when will I ever have a boyfriend like that? Nurse, could you please speak a little louder so the whole building can hear you? I had to marvel at the speed of the internet. In just one day and night, it had become common knowledge. After that day, I didn't dare go to Chloe's house to play. After all, the incontinence incident was too embarrassing. I didn't want Julian to catch me and make me wash his clothes. I'd been trending for 3 days, and the buzz hadn't died down yet. It was still rising. Whatever. I might not have love, but I still needed a truckload of bread, money. I decisively started a live stream to continue selling products. Old and new fans were frantically asking about me and Julian, telling me to go for it and experience the joy of having Keanu Reeves on one side and Ryan Reynolds on the other. I righteously declared that I was a fitness blogger, and I asked my fans not to spread rumors. And then, my scumbag ex-boyfriend showed up in my live stream with his new girlfriend, sending gifts and comments, dominating the chat. They were getting married next week and invited me to their wedding. I was furious. How could he be so self-righteous about being a cheater? He was the one who cheated first, and that woman even called me a homewrecker. Ethan's kitty, sister, even though you couldn't get the one you love, it's not your fault. It's just that Ethan loves me too much. You have to come to our wedding, okay? I'm not that petty. This had nothing to do with social suicide anymore. It was a masterclass in gaslighting and victim blaming. I didn't want to curse in my live stream in front of 100,000 viewers, so I could only smile and respond. Don't worry, I'll be there. I won't sell the high mountain pu'er tea from Yunnan. I'll save it as a wedding gift for you. Luckily, my frenemy, Chloe, was in my live stream, stirring things up. Chloe told everyone not to be fooled by the green tea bitch, directing them to her account to find out the truth about what happened. I didn't bother with it. I sang a song for the viewers, preparing to end the live stream. But, after I'd only sung a couple of lines, I started to feel dizzy. The things in front of me became blurry. The area below my nose felt a little wet. I reached up and touched it. Oh my God, I had a nosebleed. And then, I fainted again. When I opened my eyes, Julian was testing my forehead temperature with the back of his hand. A few stray hairs fell onto his forehead, and I, possessed by some spirit, blurted out. Your hair gel isn't very good. I can recommend one that lasts longer. Julian, who always had a cold expression in my memory, actually smiled. His lips were thin, and when he had a cold expression, he always gave off a stay-away vibe. But I didn't expect his smile, with the corners of his mouth turned up, to be so dreamy. Plus, with the warm yellow light in my room, from this angle, his profile looked even more charming. It felt like I'd stepped into a romantic drama, where the male lead was taking care of the female lead. Oh, it was too dreamy. I couldn't handle it. Say that again. The upward curve of Julian's mouth immediately disappeared, so quickly that I doubted whether what I'd just seen was real or just my imagination. Sigh, reality was reality, after all. I frantically tried to get up, but Julian pressed down on my arms with both hands. Don't move, little hedgehog. It was then that I noticed that I had more than a dozen silver needles stuck in my hands, feet, and stomach. Okay, I really had become a hedgehog. After a while, my mom came in and scolded me in front of Julian. Finally, she grabbed Julian's hand and emphasized. Izzy, stop messing around. Mom only has one daughter. Starting tomorrow, you're going to Julian's clinic every day to get your body healthy. There's no room for negotiation. My mom didn't give me a chance to argue. Then she started nagging Julian again. When I was a child, I was sick and took some medication with hormones. It made it even harder to lose weight after I gained it. To lose weight, I'd tried everything: enzyme plums, enzyme jellies, barley grass tea, lotus leaf tea, L-carnitine, fasting, light food, fat-burning creams. Anything you could find online, I'd used it. I'd paid stupidity taxes 4 years, spending tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands, of yuan. I'd ruined my body, and I had chronic stomach problems. In the end, it was my frenemy Chloe who scolded me and swore to exercise with me that made me persevere. Relying on diet and exercise, it took me 2 years to go from 160 pounds to 96 pounds. I succeeded in losing weight, but I was terrified of gaining it back. My stomach was already in bad shape, and I was always eating too little, which led to frequent constipation. My stomach problems got worse and worse, and this time I'd even gotten alcohol poisoning. My mom said it was a miracle I hadn't gotten a stomach ulcer from all that drinking. Julian studied traditional Chinese medicine and had his own clinic. My mom's goal was to have me learn about health and wellness from him, and also to have him check my stomach. I hadn't had a bowel movement in 3 days. When Julian was around Chloe and me, he always had a stay-away look on his face. But he didn't get angry at my mom's nagging. Humph, he was such a demon king, pretending to be good in front of elders. After my mom left, Julian picked up a pink candy wrapper from the table and asked me, "Didn't the doctor tell you not to touch alcohol for half a month?" I'd definitely heard the doctor's words, but I hadn't taken them to heart. I said guiltily, "That was a chocolate that little Leo gave me." "Right, just candy." It was a chocolate liqueur, and a luxury brand from overseas, with a very high alcohol content. Leo was the little kid next door, that's why she didn't eat it. Julian frowned slightly, his eyes darkening. The sudden anger radiating from him made my attempts at a defense disappear. My mouth shut tightly. But, he actually raised his hand. No way, was he going to hit me? I quickly closed my eyes and said, "Julian, I was wrong. I'll wash your clothes for a month as punishment." Thwack. I felt something land on my forehead. He had stuck the candy wrapper on my forehead. Then Julian, clearly irritated and amused, squeezed my cheeks. It was like watching an old-fashioned dad dealing with a kid who was failing to meet his expectations. He said, What on earth are you thinking?" I opened my eyes and met his warm, gentle smile. I felt like I was back in that summer of my childhood. It was the first time I'd gone to Chloe's house to play, and the first time I'd met a teenage Julian. But after that day, I'd never seen him smile. In my memory, every time we met, he had a stern face. I'd call him brother, sweetly, and he'd just respond with a cold, Julian started to remove the silver needles, asking me, "Why are you so afraid of me?" "I'm not a tiger, I won't eat you." I hesitated, then said, "Julian, do you want the truth?" I could feel Julian's hand pause slightly, and there was a hint of anticipation in his eyes. "You're cold, aloof, a neat freak, and you hold grudges. I don't dare to provoke you. Chloe is your blood-related sister, so you won't go too far when you take revenge." I remembered when I was in middle school, Chloe and I made a kite that the class bully broke. When Julian found out, he beat the bully's hands so badly they were swollen. The bully had never suffered such humiliation, so of course he went home and told on Julian. In the end, the parents and the school found out. I thought for sure that the top student Julian would be scolded. I was even munching on some sunflower seeds, ready to laugh. But then, the parents and teachers actually praised him for what he did. It turned out he'd used a reverse psychology tactic. He found someone the same age as the bully and challenged them to an arithmetic competition. For every wrong answer, they got a slap on the hand. After each slap, he'd explain the problem to the bully. But if the bully made the same mistake again, the slaps would double. That was incredible. Were top students so scheming when they disciplined people? I was young at the time and I didn't understand things like cunning or strategy. I just knew that Julian was too terrifying, a complete demon king. I didn't even finish my sunflower seeds before I grabbed Chloe and ran. From then on, I never dared to provoke the demon king, top student. The next day, even before my mom could urge me, I had Chloe drive me to Julian's clinic. With the rapid pace of modern life, fewer and fewer people are willing to study traditional Chinese medicine, TCM. Those who can master it and open their own clinics are even rarer. Your Majesty, good luck. I'm out of here. My frenemy abandoned me once again. I stood outside the door alone, took a few deep breaths, and finally mustered the courage to walk in. Even before entering, I could smell the strong aroma of Chinese herbs. To the left of the entrance was a long counter serving as a reception desk. Behind the counter was a 2-meter-high cabinet, divided into small compartments, each labeled with the names of various Chinese medicinal herbs. On the right was a 1.5-meter-long wooden table, where Julian sat holding a copy of the Huangdi Neijing, the Yellow Emperor's classic of internal medicine. He was wearing a gray casual outfit underneath a white lab coat. I'd asked him before why he dressed like that, wasn't it a Chinese medicine clinic? He said the white coat was just for convenience. The pockets on both sides of the coat were handy for holding pens, his phone, and small notebooks. He didn't necessarily have to wear a traditional long gown, and he said I was stubborn and rigid. Seeing me arrive, Julian stood up and led me to the inner room. There were 2 single beds with white sheets, white pillows, and white towels. I don't know what possessed me, but I actually asked him, "Do I need to take off my clothes?" "If you want to, I don't mind." Julian turned his back to me and explained. Today, there would be no acupuncture. Instead, he would be doing tuina, a form of therapeutic massage, on my abdomen. However, I'd thought he was going to do acupuncture, so for convenience, I'd worn a spaghetti strap dress with a white cardigan over it. Well, I had no choice but to pull up my dress, cover my lower body with a large towel, and expose my stomach. I told him I was ready, and only then did Julian turn around. He stood by the bed, poured some medicinal wine onto his hands, rubbed them together, and then placed them on my stomach. He massaged clockwise, then counterclockwise, using my navel as the center, pushing and rubbing back and forth. My stomach was cold, but his palms were scorching hot. It was like a collision between an erupting volcano and a glacier, 2 extremes merging. The contact brought a slightly ticklish sensation, especially with the light calluses on his right index finger and thumb. My stomach was between my ribs, and as he massaged, he would inadvertently brush against my bra. Lower down, 2 inches below my navel, he would occasionally graze my lower abdomen. That inexplicable, tingling sensation invaded my brain. I felt my cheeks burning, and I didn't know if it was from the heat or from embarrassment. I tried to control my thoughts, but being alone in a room with Julian, who was basically walking testosterone, was pure torture, not enjoyment. Julian, in his white coat, seemed less gloomy and more aloof. I admired him from the bottom of my heart for being completely unaffected by external distractions. I, silently clutching the bedsheet, felt like the one with impure thoughts. Just then, I felt a lump of gas in my stomach, neither rising nor falling, very uncomfortable. Suddenly, the lump of gas split in 2, one half going up, the other down. Burp. Pfft. All those dreamy, fanciful thoughts in my head vanished. Burping was one thing, but I also farted. And the fart, it smelled worse than a cesspool. I wanted to die. I silently comforted myself. Julian was a doctor, I was surely not the only patient who'd done this. Besides, there was no one else here. It was fine, it was fine, it was fine. Finally, the massage was over. Julian told me to lie down and rest for a while, and he went out to wash his hands. I took a long, deep breath. Thank goodness, the Demon King wasn't angry. I even shared this embarrassing incident with my best friend. Chloe said I was a fake fairy, because, after all, fairies don't fart. After a while, Julian didn't come back, but a young woman in a white coat and white pants entered. It was Lily, Julian's hired assistant, whom I'd met once before. She said Julian wanted me to have cupping therapy, and I readily agreed. I turned over and lay on my stomach, taking off my dress completely and covering my lower body with the large towel. Lily's technique was skillful and comfortable, with just the right amount of pressure. It didn't hurt at all, and I almost fell asleep. Just as Lily was about to apply the first cup, Julian burst in. "Get out. You're fired." His voice was low and harsh. I was startled too, and I didn't dare to move, so I pretended to be asleep. Lily ran out without saying a word. After a while, Julian sighed, brought me a clean towel to cover myself, and then he left too. After a while, I put on my dress and went out, pretending nothing had happened. Lily had been fired. I didn't know why, and I didn't dare to ask. After the massage, my stomach felt much better. The bloating and pain were gone. The only downside was that I was feeling very hungry. I thanked him and was about to leave, but Julian said, "I'll go with you to Ethan's wedding." At that moment, my brain wasn't working properly. "Julian, why would you go?" "I don't have a boyfriend. I'll just go alone." "If you don't say anything, how will people know?" Julian's voice was gentle, and his eyes were clear and pure, like a puppy trying to seduce someone. After leaving Julian's clinic, I felt light and airy, as if I were still in a dream. What did Julian mean by that? It was the first time I'd seen him so gentle. I called Chloe and interrogated her. I was worried that the Demon King was planning to take revenge on me. After all, because of me, he'd lost the assistant he'd had for 3 years. Chloe listened to my ramblings for a long time before finally saying, slowly, "Your Majesty, you don't need to worry." I looked at her curiously, asking her why. "Actually, my brother likes you." Chloe stammered out those words. Even though I'd imagined countless scenarios, I could only grab her shoulders in shock. "Crown Princess, we haven't had any alcohol today, so you can't be talking drunk." Chloe pulled out her phone and showed me a few messages and a video. Chloe said her brother always bullied her, so to get revenge, she deliberately told Julian that I had a crush on him. At first, it was just a joke, but later, Julian took it seriously. When our group of girlfriends got together and were tipsy, we liked to talk nonsense. Chloe always liked to film me and send the videos to Julian. In the video, I was holding a beer bottle, squinting my eyes, and shaking my index finger, saying, "Ah, yes, I like your brother. You have to call me sister-in-law." Another example, I was leaning against the sofa, looking dejected with my eyes closed, saying, "It's not that your brother isn't good enough, it's that I'm not worthy, understand? I want to be your sister-in-law too." There were many videos like that, and Chloe had sent them all to her brother. Anyone who didn't know the truth would think I really liked Julian. I snatched Chloe's phone and said, with a hint of anger, "These things you're saying only make people think I like your brother. They don't prove that your brother likes me. You haven't had any alcohol today, so don't try to fool me." Chloe then showed me the WeChat messages between her and her brother. It was from the day I was hospitalized for alcohol poisoning. Julian had sent a message to Chloe. "If you don't want a sister-in-law, keep acting up. If you two dare to drink again, I'll break your legs." I was completely dumbfounded. It shouldn't be like this. How could the Demon King top student possibly like me? My grades were average, and I was a chubby kid when I was younger. I was still chubby in high school. It wasn't until college that I started to reach my peak in terms of looks. Chloe even said that her brother had liked me for a long time. After Chloe told me that Julian liked me, I didn't dare go to his clinic anymore. For 3 days in a row, I made all sorts of excuses not to go. I even convinced my difficult mother. But I didn't expect Julian to come straight to my house. At that moment, I was lying in bed, pulling up my clothes to expose my stomach. After a while, Julian's hands, rubbed with medicinal wine, covered my stomach. Just like that day, it was a collision between a glacier and a scorching volcano. After just one clockwise rub, I started burping and farting. Sigh, there was nothing I could do. My digestion was bad, and I'd been staying home and not exercising for the past few days. Julian massaged me while asking, "Why are you avoiding me?" "I'm not." Julian asked again, but I still didn't answer. I pulled his hand away, sat up, and put on my shoes. "My stomach hurts. I need to go to the bathroom." But Julian stood up, walked over to the door, closed it, and blocked my way. He looked like he wouldn't let me leave until I explained myself. I got angry too. I crossed my arms, sat on the edge of the bed, and turned my head away from him. Neither of us spoke, and the room fell into an awkward silence. I don't know how long it lasted, but Julian finally gave in. "If you're not avoiding me, why haven't you come to see me these past few days? Because you're making me feel confused. I finished speaking and stood up, walking over to push his arm. Excuse me, a person has 3 urgencies. Not only did Julian not move aside, but he also grabbed my arm, forcing me to look at him. It's clearly you who's making me feel confused. I don't know what Chloe told you, but that doesn't matter anymore. I'm telling you seriously now, I like you. I want to go to Ethan's wedding with you. Julian, do you think it's appropriate to say this now? There's no romance at all, and I'm ruining the mood. That's right. Halfway through my sentence, I burped again. Then I added, those videos were all filmed by Chloe. We were drunk and messing around. I didn't mean it. I pushed Julian away, opened the door, and ran. It would be a lie to say I didn't feel anything. But I seriously suspected that Julian was only saying this to get revenge on me and Chloe. After all, the best way to get revenge on someone is to give them hope and then crush it. Falling from heaven to hell is the most painful thing. Originally, I'd been trending for 4 or 5 days, and it should have died down. But that petty Lily actually started badmouthing me online. She liked Julian and couldn't win his love, so she turned her anger on me. Great, I was trending for another 2 days. In the blink of an eye, it was Ethan's wedding day. Since that day, Julian hadn't contacted me, and I hadn't contacted him. So, what I'd guessed that day was right. It was all fake, just for fun. Julian was just getting revenge on me. Chloe and I went to the hotel together. At the wedding reception, we found a corner to sit in. After all, we weren't the main characters today. We were being so considerate, but someone still wanted to cause trouble. Ethan's girlfriend, Carol, and Lily were actually friends. The world really wasn't that big. Carol came over to pick a fight, continuing her green tea act, while Lily held up her phone and live-streamed. Chloe, worried that public opinion would be one-sided, quickly pulled out her phone and joined the live stream. Wow, the title of the live stream was really shameless. The original wife generously invites the homewrecker to the wedding. I'd seen shameless people before, but never one so shameless. In an instant, the live stream had 100,000 viewers. Whatever, I'd consider the wave of gifts as a wedding present for the 2 of them. I pulled Chloe, wanting to leave, but then the wedding march that was playing suddenly stopped. Everyone turned to look at the big screen. The newlywed VCR that was playing also stopped, followed by a black screen, and then it turned into a slideshow. It was the day I caught Ethan cheating. Ethan had told me he was going on a business trip. Chloe and I went to a restaurant to eat and do a live stream, recommending the restaurant. I didn't expect to run into him. I saw Ethan and Carol eating together, and Carol even got down on one knee and proposed in public. Chloe was quick, she'd already started the live stream, using her own account to film the entire slideshow, including Carol's colorful face. No matter what Carol said, the audience was filled with a chorus of boos. Just then, the crowd at the entrance automatically parted, and Julian, in a sharp suit, walked towards me. He reached out his hand to me and said, "My lady, it's too noisy here. Let's go home and eat." In front of everyone, I naturally placed my hand in his. He held my hand, and surrounded by a crowd of people, we walked out of the restaurant. In the crowd, I heard many people calling his name. "Professor Julian, when will you be giving a lecture? Professor Julian, you haven't been to the school to teach in a long time. Dr. Julian, can I intern at your clinic?" Oh, so Julian was that popular. The crowd was dense, but he protected me well, and no one else could touch me. He led me around a corner, avoiding the throng of people, and we safely exited the restaurant. But then, Ethan actually chased after us. "Izzy, you, him, you." Before he could finish, I grabbed Julian's hand, interlocked our fingers, raised it up, and shook it, saying, "Yes, this is my boyfriend." Seeing Ethan's dejected back, I was very happy. I turned to meet Julian's deep eyes, and the curve of my smile became even more pronounced. That day, after leaving the wedding banquet, Julian took me to a bar owned by his friend. It turned out that he'd been busy these past few days, preparing to sabotage the wedding. The accident at Ethan's wedding was all Julian's doing. The MC in charge of the wedding happened to be a huge fan of Julian. His group of friends were all very close friends of Julian. They hadn't seen each other in 5 years, and Julian hadn't wanted to turn down the gathering, and he just brought me along with him. He raised his glass and introduced me formally. "This is my girlfriend, and in the future, she will be your sister-in-law." Everyone started teasing us and wanted us to drink, but he quickly blocked me, saying I had a bad stomach and couldn't drink. That night, Julian drank a lot of alcohol, and it was the first time I'd seen him smile so much. When the party ended, I was going to take him home, but he grabbed my hand and wouldn't let me leave. "Do you know, when Chloe told me you liked me, I was so happy. I even have a..." He could barely walk, but he still insisted on taking me to his study to see his sketchbook. Luckily, he lived alone. Otherwise, if I, a girl, didn't go home at night and his parents found out, they would definitely think it was inappropriate. After flipping through the sketchbook for a while, he fell asleep. I couldn't carry him, so I could only bring blankets and pillows and make do. I leaned against him, slowly admiring the drawings of me in the sketchbook. The first drawing was actually of me and Chloe playing in the mud, except there was no Chloe, only me. I stroked his eyebrows and eyes, thinking that this quiet, peaceful moment was really nice. The next morning, Ethan called me. I quickly turned my phone to silent mode, worried about waking Julian. I carefully pulled his hand away and got up. Just as I was about to stand up, he grabbed me, pulled me gently, and I fell into his arms. He rubbed his sleepy eyes, glanced at my phone, and told me to answer it. I turned on the speakerphone, and Ethan's frantic voice came through. "Izzy, I love you. I didn't marry Carol. Come back to me. My mom also agrees that we should be together." Then, his mother's voice came through. "Izzy, get back together with Ethan. I won't interfere. Be a good girl, listen to me, and come back." Ethan's family was wealthy. His mother initially disapproved of us being together because she thought I was an internet celebrity. Now, it was probably because her son's cheating had damaged his reputation and affected the family business, so she wanted me back. I was still thinking about how to respond in a way that would be satisfying, but Julian solved it perfectly in a few words. He said, "We're very busy right now, preparing for our wedding. Next month, bring your aunt to our wedding." He hung up the phone. I suppressed the excitement in my heart, cleared my throat, and asked, "Julian, isn't this proposal a little hasty?" But then, Julian reached up and felt around his neck. He found the necklace, pulled it out, and it was actually a pair of rings. "It's a little hasty, I know. I was just waiting for you to say yes, and everything will be ready." Wow, he actually carried the wedding rings with him. Okay, I believed him. This guy had liked me for a long time. "Alright, since you're so sincere, I'll reluctantly agree." After saying that, I planted a kiss on his cheek. He thought it wasn't enough, and he held me and gave me a deep French kiss. Domineering, gentle, a contradictory entanglement. Actually, having a domineering demon king as a life partner, this journey called life should be quite interesting.